Afternoon, folks. Good to see you all here. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Going to be a bit of a curtailed stream today. I'm working off the tail end of a sinus infection, so I'll be down here for a little bit working on something relatively simple today. But before we get into that, I've got a couple things to show off, which are pretty fun. First thing is just I whipped this up a little bit over the weekend here, just a little knife slip for a Ego no Kami, just a little bench knife here for opening boxes and things like that, so nothing too special, but I believe these are regarded for being able to take a pretty good edge if you do a little bit of work on them, so I need to do a little bit of honing on it here to get it really where it needs to be, but just a fun little bench knife for opening boxes and things like that. Real star is going to be what I got in the mail, actually just about half an hour ago, from my good friend Steve Knox. Let's see what's in here. Actually, I already know what it is, but I'll unwrap it for you guys, so check that out. Isn't that cool? He had shown me pictures of this a couple months ago, and I didn't know it was going to be filled with resin, but he actually handmade this brush for me because I'm such a strong proponent of using the brush on leather. But look at that. Look at that finish on that. Man, that's pretty. Look at that. It's cool. I don't even know what to say. That's breathtaking. Look at that. I think we'll have to make use of this today. Look at that. That's just perfect. Can't believe how perfect that got milled, and that is just breathtaking. Steve, I'm in your debt. What ow, hey, what the heck? Hold on. What, what the heck is this? Well, Steve, I was gonna thank you, but I was viciously and suddenly attacked from behind. Unbelievable. I was right in the middle of I was gonna thank my friend for the nice gift he gave me, and look at what you've done. Look at what you did. Unbelievable. Reached up and clawed me right in the back. You are so bad. No, he's okay. You're so bad. You're so bad. He just came up behind me and went and clawed me right in the back to get my attention. Unbelievable. So bad. Look at you. You're lucky that everybody wants to see you. You're lucky that you've become so famous now. Only your fame is protecting you from getting away with something as heinous as that. All right. Off you go. In any case, thank you very much, Steve. I'm in your debt for this. This is delightful. That is just fantastic. And again, for those curious, that is Mr. Steve Knox from Knoxbox Designs. Find him on Instagram. Steve, I don't know if you're offering these for people, but if you are, yes, please do give us the details of it. How long did it take you to pull all the bristles through? Heavens! Wow, that is dense. I cannot wait to use it. We're gonna use it today. I'd hang it on my wall if I could, but I think it's better if I just use it. Man, that's pretty. And thank you for getting the brush oiled up already. That makes it very easy for me to just start using it. That's magnificent. Look at that. Leatherworking may not make me a wealthy man, but it does give me some damn good friends. So, absolutely worth it for that. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. I just like looking at it. Look at that. Look at how fantastic that looks. Nice depth too on the resin when the light catches it the right way. That's something. Thank you very much, Steve. This is gonna go proudly on my bell skiver where I put all my stickers. With that, that's all the good stuff I've got for you. Only bad stuff from now. So I've got just a small project today. Like I said, today's going to be a relatively curtailed stream. But I have just a simple card holder that somebody had ordered over the past couple of weeks. And I actually had a request from somebody, I think it was in the chat here, talking about doing a card holder. Because it's a fairly simple project to work through from start to finish. So I've kind of got this started already. I've got it roughly about 40% put together here. I kind of got done with the annoying stuff that you've all seen already, but we'll talk a little bit about doing some of the more curious details of this. So in particular, in this one here, this one has a logo printed. And they want the logo centered on the inside, up near the top. So it becomes kind of awkward trying to get that aligned properly. If you've got two individual pieces of leather that you can't see both sides at the same time, how do you make sure that you get it in the right place? And it's actually pretty easy. I'll show you how I do that here. We've basically got, this is a double-sided card holder with an open center. I generally don't make these for people unless I talk to them first, mostly because I find that with cards in both sides, it becomes very difficult to open that center pocket there. So I don't offer it as a standard thing, but if people ask me for it, I can at least advise them that you know, hey, it will be somewhat difficult to use this centerpiece, and if they're okay with that, then I go ahead and make it for it. So in this case, he was made well aware of what would be the complications with doing this, and he said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So here we are. So I've got the two pieces made that hold our T-slot in place, and here's how I do that. I actually basically use two different sets of T-slots for it. So here's actually my card. Here is the top piece that lays down on. You can see that's already been glued down here. And by doing it this way, I managed to keep a consistent edge all the way around the outside there. I don't have any steps where the card slots meet, so when I glue this down here, this effectively gets glued to the liner rather than to any backing there. And when stitched together, it's basically stitched directly over to the other card slot. That keeps it from being too thick at the bottom down there. And I find that works quite well, so I'll show you how we're going to go ahead and do that. I've done that on this side here already, so we have this liner in place already, covering up our stitch line on the inside there. So like I said, the difficulty on this one is going to be, how do we get this logo stamp to be centered visibly? Before I do that, I think I'm going to turn up the brightness on my camera a little bit. Have it's supposed to rain imminently, so I've got a lot of cloud cover moving in and out. I'm gaining and losing light by the minute, just kind of depending on how it is. That's playing hell with my head and my sinuses, so if I'm a little out of it today, that's why. Mostly just waiting for the rain to break so my head can get some relief. But we're going to go ahead and I'll show you how I line these up, and like I said, it's actually very simple. So I know using my transparent template, I have you'll see I have pretty much made an outside margin line there where I know I want it to be. So I know I want this to be roughly right here in the center. I've got that just kind of visibly centered there and more towards the top, and I just kind of traced around the template there. Sonioga, I'm drinking just a basic mint tea. It's nice and easy on the throat, and anything hot kind of helps clear up the head. So I've got my outside margin traced on there, and I know it's going to be the same as this margin here. You can see I've got it scribed there up on the top there. So I know that if I'm able to line these pieces up, they're going to be the same size. So how do I line them up? It's pretty simple, and I'm able to do this easily because I trim my corners with these rounded corners here. But basically what I'll do, you notice I have excess here to be trimmed off. We're going to make use of that. There's a lot of utility in this, not just for getting a clean edge, but then also for aligning pieces together. So what we're going to do, I have my corners here marked off. I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to trim away just the corner sections like that. Kind of see where my line, right at the corner where they meet there, I've just trimmed away basically an L shape into the corner there. So now I know that when I'm looking at the back of this, even though I can't see my guidelines, I know that in the recesses of these two corners here, these are the top two corners of where the outside margin is. So I know that if I have something else with these little notches taken out that's the same size, I know that if I line them up, they're going to be aligned. So we're going to do that on the same one here. So you note here, we have this lined up here. Or out there. We have now basically two separate pieces here with guidelines cut in them that are in the same spots. So you know, if we line them up together, lay them on top of each other, they line up just right. So I know that now if I glue this down, I don't even need to see where that is. I just know that if I glue it to where the inside of those corners are touching each other, that will be lined up just right. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take a pencil, just so I can know roughly where I need to put glue, because I don't need to get glue all over the place down here. Just going to give myself a quick margin of where I actually need to glue and prevent myself from doing more work than I need to. Now with doing these here, basically there's only glue holding this top layer together. I don't stitch across the top here, so I want to get a lot of glue up across the top edge here. I want to make sure that that edge there, once it's burnished and done, it's going to bond forever. I'm going to lay extra glue down in there to make sure that when I work that glue out to the edges, it is bonded for life. And now we'll work the edge of the card slot down there. What's that down? Again, going back over, spending extra time working down that top seam there. Now, fill on here. Now when we trim this, we should have our logo centered just right in the top up there. Now we can go ahead and crease and burnish this upper edge up here. Or we put the whole thing together. Oh, yep, looks good. Right up along the edge there. Fairly subtle stamp, but that's what we were looking for. They wanted it to be just a blank stamp there. Now I could have hand stamped this. I could have glued them together and then hand struck it and stamped it, but I wanted it to darken a little bit, so I wanted to use some heat. I chose to use my my quick print, the foil stamper, to get the brass stamp nice and hot and get a little bit of darkness in that stamp there, just for a little bit more visibility. This is Minerva box on the inside, so it's very soft. In the course of gluing it, we're going to lose a little bit of the sharp relief just by a matter of course of it getting worked down and compressed a little bit. But it should be visible enough to where when you look for it, you can see it. It's not intended to be very, very visible. That's why we didn't use any foil when we stamped it. Glued down now, we can go ahead. Trim these corners. Now what I'm going to do with this, I want to I've already done the one side. To ensure that I have a perfectly lined up rounded corner, I'm going to lay them on top of one another here. Just touch that through there, just to leave some guideline marks on here where I can come back, punch through. Now I know that when I, not only will I have this lined up, the stamp is lined up with the top edge there, I've also got the same radius punched into the corners too. So that when those two pieces are joined, they're going to look right next to each other. Okay. Now when I put these together, should line up just perfectly, and they do. Just right. They're not 100% perfect yet because the edge will get deformed a little bit from the crease and from the burnish finally. But these two are basically ready to go together. Just waiting on the fileteuse to heat up a little bit more before I do that. Now, I could glue these outside card slots on, but I don't want to do that just yet. I want to wait a minute to do that. I think what I want to do, I want to glue these pieces together first and then glue the card slots on afterwards. Now, why do I want to do that? Like I mentioned at the start, this design is not exactly flawed, but you have to be aware of the fact that you're fighting the tension of the cards when you're trying to open up that center pocket there. So what I want to do, when I glue these two pieces together, I want to glue something in between, well, not glue, I want to have something in between them when I glue them together to basically impart an open air pocket in the center there. And I want to do that before I put these cards on because I want to keep that tension inside there so I can glue the card slots over top it and have them basically formed already to that. So it'll be easier to put cards in and out of. I'll show you. It'll make more sense when I do it. So I'm just kind of trying to plan ahead to make sure that I can get all of the extra space in there that I need before I finally glue it all together. By now, our fileteau should be ready. Minerva box is one of the nicest leathers in the world to crease. It just takes it so beautifully. No effort needed at all. Look at that nice dark crease right there that it just leaves. That's very little heat, only maybe 150 degrees on the fileteau's head there. A little bit. Perfect. So there's our top edge of that. Creased. Now it just needs a quick burnish. And this being such a thin edge, it really will take very, very little to actually accomplish that. A little bit of water. It's actually so nice I can basically go right from water burnish. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of 600 grit. Before I do anything else to it, I'm going to try to pick it apart. I'm going to run my thumb over it and see, do I have any lifting, any delamination of any kind? Nope, that is nice and bonded and solid. We're good to go ahead and finish it. I'm going to hit it with Tokonol now. It'll only take about 2 passes with this. Just that first initial pass and then this final pass with the Tokonol. And I'll hit it with some wax when it's all together. There we go. There we go. We have our 2 halves ready to go together there. Now you may be tempted to look at that and say, I think I'd like to make that stamp a little more visible and hammer through and strike it from the back. Now here's the other reason why I chose to foil stamp the piece before gluing it together rather than afterwards. With these glued together now, if you stamp into the back of it, you will absolutely have a transfer on the other side. So right on the front of your wallet, you're going to have a big visible transfer impression on the opposite side. So that's part of why I usually insist on I never stamp anything after it's been put together. I always do it separated so I can keep these from doing any visible transfers of strikes or things like that. So you may be tempted to do that. Like I said, my advice, leave it be, because you will definitely send something through to the other side that may or may not look good. So at this point, with it being all put together, you're better off not risking it. I think that's a-okay, good to go as it is. So now we have to join these 2 pieces together. Take my scribe, scuff the back side here, You want to be careful doing this with the Minerva box because it is very soft, and this is relatively thin, so I don't want to stretch it or pull it or, God forbid, puncture or tear it. Kind of gently going over it and lifting up that surface there, trying to get at some of the fibers beneath. Same for the other side here. Go. Blue line all the way up to the terminus of that corner there. So now we're ready to glue these together. Like I said, we're going to fit a plug of sorts in there. And generally with these card wallets, I don't anticipate a whole lot being put in there. So we're just going to use just a single card. I'm going to put just a little tape handle on it so I can slip it in there and pull it out easily at the end there. Clamp here. I go in again with the, because this is all veg tan, we're going to use the Sewa water-based glue. And without the outside card slots on this actually isn't going to be fighting a whole lot of tension, so shouldn't have to fight it too much to get this to stick together nicely. Glue on there, we're going to take this, just kind of lay this in the center there. Very carefully, I'm going to get down. I have to get in front of the camera, I fear. That. Do one side at a time. Line them up. Looking at the top edge, making sure that's lined up, looking at the card slots, making sure those are lined up. And once those two edges are together, line up the rest of it. Again, with how soft the Minerva is, we probably really don't even need to clamp it that much, but we'll do it anyway. So again, you can see we've clamped it around that card inside, so we have a little bit of a bow that we're gluing into this. Just that little bit of negative space can make a lot of difference to how usable this wallet is in the end there. Need those clamps on the Minerva there. I think we're good to go with just this. Really, we only need to hold the main tension that's going to fight is going to be up here, where it's working against the stiffness of the Botero. I think with that, so that's glued up. That Sewa glue sets very quickly. Now we want to glue these outer card slots on. Now we're going to do that again. We're going to leave that card inside there. We are going to add card to each side on the outside now. We're basically trying to get this into a position closest to how it would be in actual use. so that it is ready to meet that need right off the bat. There's no stretching needed to get it to hold these cards easily. It already does this. And just that little bit of empty negative space on the inside here will make it that much easier to fold open, to reach your finger in there to pull stuff out with 4 cards on the outside there. So it doesn't really matter which side we go with. We'll just pick one and go to it here. In fact, I might try to do them. I'll do them both at once. I don't know. I think we'll just do one at a time. I'm going to get a lot of glue in on this one, because unlike what we just did, this one is going to be fighting a bit of tension. So although it'll make it a longer cure time, harder to work with having more glue, I want a very, very strong bond on this. So I'm going to use a ton of glue on this, really get it clamped down here. Lining that up with the outside edge there. Same thing over here. And the worst tension it's going to fight is going to be on these outside edges here. Down the bottom you can get some clamps on there, but really where you need that tension is going to be on the sides up here. Let's set for just a second and flip it over, do the other side. Now, for those wondering, again, I always end up saying this, but for those wondering about clamping directly onto the surface of the leather, I keep this at a point to where the edges of my clamps are where my stitch holes are going to be. So any marks that are left over from these clamps will be obliterated underneath the stitch line. So I never worry about having to mask or hide that or anything like that. It's always hidden by that. That's good enough there. So now we've got enough of a bond on that to where it'll hold long enough to put glue on the other side. Kind of a race against time on this. There. And just working one corner at a time. Get one end aligned, the other. Clamp it down tight. Now that is a little bit awkward, but the results for when you put it together and when somebody actually goes to use it, quite helpful. I'm going to let that sit there for a second. And to ease off some of this tension on the glue, I'm actually going to pull this card out now. These ones as well. We've basically got it where we need to. We don't need to be having all of this tension on all the time. We'll let the glue set up with these in here. Actually, I think we can take these off now because that glue is pretty much set. And work it around. Go. Perfect. That should be good to go. We have this ready to go. It's looks a little worse for wear with all the clamp marks on it. Again, not to worry. We're going to trim some of those outside edges away, and those areas that you can see where the clamp marks are, those are going to get stitches through them. before we do that, we're going to take this with this all together. We're going to lay the template over it. Lining it up and just double check and make sure that we have our margins all correct. We're just going to do a fresh scribe line there. Nice clean lines to follow for trimming with that. Let's go ahead and do that now. Hey, Terrence. Good to see you. Oh. There's an edge trimmed. And I'm just making multiple passes, just kind of letting the weight of the knife do the work, not really trying to press too hard into it. This one here, its final curve, trim up against the template itself. All right. Now we can go ahead and round off the bottom corners, and we're ready to punch some stitch holes. There's our whole wallet put together. Got 2 card slots on each side. The open center. Got a little bit of delamination on that edge there, but not too concerned about that at the moment. Deal with that when we're stitching it. I am going to take a sanding block and clean this up a little bit before I go punching holes in it. Have a bit of an elevation change on that. I don't quite like yet. I want to take that down and make that a little more level before I go doing anything irrevocable to it. Hit the other side too. I think that should be enough. Yeah, that should be doable. All right. Take our wing dividers here. Very gently. When you have so much space built up behind these card slots, they're kind of puffy and they move a little bit. You want to very gently use your wing dividers when you're marking a line on this, because it's easy for them to slip off of this and leave a mark right in the middle of your leather. think I may have to actually... Send that. See how that feels with the cards in it. One other downside of working around that flex is that this wallet is now basically an oval shape. It's kind of awkward to punch holes in. You have to be aware of that as you're doing that. Let's see what this actually look like here. And see how much extra space is taken up by those cards being on the outside there. You want to be mindful of that. You're thinking I might actually re-glue. I'm looking at this now. I'm not 100% happy with how this is looking. Kind of hard to tell, but if you see here, this side's pretty good. This side here, I don't necessarily like how much. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm getting, just from there being tension on this, I'm getting a little bit of a trapezoidal shape on this card slot here. I don't necessarily like. See if that can be flattened out and stitched in place. Might still be able to get that to work out. Yeah, only when there's... I think it'll be okay. Every now and then you do this and you have to redo some part of it. Not sure if I want to stick with that or not. Side, okay. See what that looks like. I think I'm going to go for it. Getting down, trying to find the line here. No. I think that'll be okay. Again, this is why I do not offer these a standard option. There are complications involved in making them. I always tell people if you want a double-sided card slot and it should have cash slot in the middle of it, what you really need is a folding wallet. You don't need a card wallet at that point. I think you just have to kind of accept the fact that you're not as minimalist as you'd like to be. Like I said at the start, I fear this stream is going to be a little curtailed. Like I said, I'm still coming off of a sinus infection here. I feel that it's about to rain here, so my head is really giving me hell here. So I think what we're going to do, I think I'm going to get the holes punched here. I'll open up to questions for a quick minute here, and I'm probably going to call it a day just because I'm feeling a little rough today, fellas. So I hope you'll forgive me on this one. So, like I said, I'm going to punch these holes, call it a day here, and get some rest. If you have any questions about what we're doing here today or anything in general, feel free to pop it in chat here. But I think we're gonna call it a day early here. Just not at my best today. Well, this did still work out here. It's always nice when you're... Oh, you can actually see through those. It's always nice when you're going to finish up a stitch line. Your pricking irons just line up perfectly. That doesn't always happen, but it's nice when it does. I think I'm going to put more there. There. Oh. Have that. Prepared and ready to stitch. And like I said, I would love to show this one to you, but I'm just feeling poorly, fellas. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here for the day. Any questions at all, do leave them in chat. I'd be happy to answer them for you, but I think I'm gonna go get some rest. Waiting for this rain to come and pass over here. One of the unfortunate parts of living in Youngstown is that we basically are inside of a huge valley, a tri-county valley. And this has some odd effects on our weather patterns here, especially when it comes to pressure systems. So we generally get, we avoid a lot of severe weather, but we get major pressure fluctuations as they move around us. So this causes problems, unfortunately. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it there, guys. So thanks for tuning in for the little bit we did today. Only 45 minutes today, but I think that's enough. Hopefully this answered a couple of questions about how to do these. I realized I wasn't very forthcoming about what I was doing today, but I hope you can forgive me. Just not at my best. So hope to see you next week. If you have any questions, leave them in my inbox, and we'll see you guys then. Have a good one.